and welcome to the Rolando Estocada channel. My name is Rolando, and today we're going to be covering Mohara, the physical attributes and developmental tools necessary to ensure your success in your practice of Felicissimo Dizon's Mohara. We're going to be covering some training as it relates to force generation, posture, arm conditioning, and footwork. So I really hope you enjoy. Stick around, stay tuned. Before you proceed with today's episode, please click the like and subscribe button. Your support is very much appreciated. And for my Filipino subscribers, gumagalang po at salamat po na pinapanood nyo itong channel na ito tungkol sa estocada na pag-aralan ko sa tatay ko. And what I just said there was thank you to my Filipino subscribers for their continued support and for viewing the art that was passed on to me by my father. So thank you very much. Gumagalang po and salamat po. Hello and welcome back to today's episode on the Rolando Estocada channel called Mohara, Physical Attributes and Developmental Tools. These are the tools that are going to be helpful to you in becoming successful. So knowing how to move around with your stick has to be supported with important physical attributes. So these are the four main categories. Number one is going to be posture. So the posture that we are looking for in Mohara is the tall posture. Now imagine a line going down your anatomy so that it bisects your entire physiology from front facing and also side facing. Number one, we want your head aligned with your shoulders, which is aligned with your rib cage and hips, and your hips are now aligned with your knees, which then aligns with your ankles. This posture is very important first and foremost because this is the most relaxed posture when you are in your waking state. This is so that when you're walking or if you're doing any sort of physical labor, staying tall gives you the best absolute leverage in order to generate any sort of force. This is why when you are squatting or when you are deadlifting, the idea is to finish in a tall position because it utilizes the entire physiology in an absolutely natural state. There is another consideration here when it comes to the tall posture is that your breathing apparatus, specifically your lungs, as it is connected to your diaphragm and as it is connected to the pelvic floor. This is the most natural and efficient position for you to be able to respirate. So naturally inhaling and exhaling. Note that when you are tilted forward in your anatomy, this is when you are now experiencing a fatigued state. This is why when you see athletes who are breathing hard and breathing heavy, it is because they need the force of gravity to allow them to inhale and bring in more oxygen into the system. By standing tall, what you are signaling to your body is that it is in a steady state. It is receiving the right amount of oxygen. We are safe, we are stable, we are efficient. We are in a state, both physiologically and cardiovascularly, to do the work that needs to be done. So a tall posture is also very important in being able to maintain. The second thing that I would like for us to cover here is conditioning, specifically to arm conditioning. Your ability to utilize your arms effectively when moving a stick now comes down to proper posture, proper movement efficiency. Once you have those, you now have conditioning exercises that we can review so that you can develop your arms accordingly. Your ability to utilize your arms effectively when moving a stick now comes down to proper posture, proper movement efficiency. Once you have those, you now have conditioning exercises that we can review so that you can develop your arms accordingly. It is very easy not only for your arm to fatigue, but as part of a compensation strategy, you will lose your posture if your arm is not conditioned. It is important for yourself as a practitioner that you have a way of signaling to yourself that your body is now entering a fatigue state. One of them is that you are now breaking plumb line, i.e., you are now breaking your own posture. Should you start to fatigue in the arm, strangely enough, you will start to notice breaks in your posture. So there's a correlation. To start to make the mental note that when you're breaking posture, that starts to affect your arm conditioning. And once you start feeling fatigue in your arm, it's not a lack of conditioning. It is because there's something going on in your posture as it relates to joint restrictions, muscular restrictions, and a lack of breathing optimization. The third category I do want to take a look at is power generation. As mentioned in the previous episode around stick and sword methodologies, power generation as it relates to the core really comes from the sword, meaning using the sword, an imbalanced tool, comes down to posture and core. The arm and posture correlation tells you if you're moving efficiently. The arm and the core correlation ensures that you're moving not only with maximum efficiency, but with optimized power generation. Fourth category, and that fourth category is going to be footwork. As a reminder, we are looking at footwork from the perspective of attribute development. Now, attribute development, as it relates to footwork, you would think that it is important to localize it to the feet. But in fact, the feet are directly connected to core activation. We're going to take a look at open chain and closed chain exercises to make this exact point. So now, when we are looking at footwork, we are looking at footwork from the perspective of how we can more optimize our core activation by using some exercises and some footwork strategies in Filipino martial arts.
For your posture series, hinge forward and move with the stick. Make note of your balance and make note of your breathing. Then stand straight and move with the stick. Make note of your balance. Make note of your posture and your breathing. Make note of any restrictions, any sort of pain in the joints. Do the same thing going forward. It's a check-in. So this is the first way for you to check on your posture as it relates to the quality of your movement with the stick. This is from the Doblete Arm Conditioning Series. Take a relatively heavy stick with thick handles, and you're going to want to make small circles with this closer to the center line. And make note of a couple of criteria. One, make sure you're standing tall. Number two, you're switching arms as needed. Number three, nasal breathing is important so that you are in a steady state and relatively parasympathetic. Should you find yourself breathing through your mouth, it is time for you to take a break because it means that you are fatigued and the quality of your movement is going to be compromised. Try to do this exercise between 5 and 10 minutes at a time. This is the Doblete hand-to-hand active recovery series. So what you do is you throw the stick up in the air, down the center line, and catch it in midair while maintaining tall posture. Do a few of these as part of active recovery between the Doblete arm conditioners, and once you feel absolutely recovered, you can go right back to the Doblete arm conditioning series. Do make note that you are maintaining tall posture throughout. Now that you're done with your Doblete conditioning series, now you can go straight to your Mohara series, your Mohara flow, and you'll find that your Mohara fighting techniques are actually very relaxing because there is multiplanar movement, better blood circulation, better oxygen distribution to the appendicular anatomy. In other words, now that you're fighting, you feel far more liberated because of great posture and great arm conditioning. On heavy days, I like to do the Doblete arm conditioning series with my Bokto. I believe this is about a good 3-pounder. And I do the Doblete series, and then once I'm done with doing that, sometimes I switch up the handle to just punish myself a little bit. And then straight from there, I go straight to my Mohara technique training. And it's a great feeling. It engages my core even more because it's an extended lever, and that's on my heavy days, and I highly recommend that you start to experiment with different tools. This is the club bell. It's a 45-pound club bell, and I absolutely love this exercise. It's a mainstay for me. This improves posture, arm conditioning, and force generation. This is called the Gamma cast. Note the tall posture, note the nasal breathing, the arm is working, the core is working, and as you can see, this is a fighting movement, not a bodybuilding movement. So it is great for developing warrior conditioning and circular strength. This is the one-arm Gamma cast with a 15-pound club bell, same exact movement. Also trains posture, good breathing, core stabilization, and arm conditioning. However, the right shoulder now has to stabilize as the left arm has to mobilize. This is the kettlebell halo, very similar to the Gamma cast, and it is much lighter. This one is 12 pounds. Great for breath management, posture, and a great active recovery exercise in between the heavy ones. But if you go heavy with this, it's also a great arm conditioner. This is now the hand-to-hand series. This is great for kabilaan. This is a little bit more advanced, but catching a kettlebell with your palm is very good for hand-to-hand exercises and hand-to-hand strategy like kabilaan. This one, the bottoms-up clean, the bottoms-up hold, is great for techniques like the dalawahan. And this is a variation of it where the weight is now behind me. So I really have to work my forearm here, but also my core, because my posture is what ensures that the kettlebell stays aligned. This is a great exercise with the dumbbell. And the goal of this is to check in on your shoulder opener. Make sure that your bicep, your upper arm, is aligned with your ear. And it's great for techniques that require overhead shoulder mobility, like a payong. This is for lateral stabilization of your core. So what you're doing is punching across the midline. This is the diagonal punch cut. So what you're doing is keeping the stick straight, and you're firing that shot across your body. Make note that the hips stay stable and the shoulders stay relatively stable with some decoupling. And you can see it happen here on the left side. What's key is that the stick remains relatively stable with your core activated. Same idea here with the 15-pound club bell, but the idea is that we are using a more stabilizing exercise rather than a dynamic one with the stick. Once again, core stabilization, you'll find that your T-spine, your upper back, is going to be working a lot here while your lower body stabilizes your core. This is a variation of a club bell arm swing. This is the club bell dagdag bawas. So I'm using the dagdag bawas strategy with a 15-pound club bell. So the idea is that on the way down, I shorten it. On the way up, I bring it up. And then I switch it to the other hand so that the other hand also gets the same conditioning benefits. But here, I go ahead and shorten it on the way up and then lengthening it on the way down. It's great with a 15-pound club bell, so by the time I switch over to a stick, the stick offers its own challenges, but it's much easier. Another favorite is the dumbbell hand-to-hand. Same as what we were doing with the stick, but with the dumbbell, now it's a greater challenge to your posture because now you have to end up hinging because of the weight. However, same rules apply. Try to maintain good breathing, good posture, great arm conditioning, and great force generation as well because you're using your legs to drive that dumbbell up there. This is my favorite footwork exercise. This is a modified kettlebell farmer's walk in a rack position. But by stepping forward and back and keeping one foot planted, what we are doing is actually creating multiplanar movements within the hip along with the foot-ankle complex. So it's a great way to create coordination between the foot and ankle along with the hip so that they talk to each other better while using the kind of footwork that we use in Filipino martial arts. So make note of the conservative footwork that's being used here, which is very similar to the kind of footwork that we see in sword work. We can see some resemblances to retirada. I wouldn't call it retirada, but with the loaded kettlebell in hand, what it does is that it correlates footwork with core work along with posture. And if the kettlebell happens to be heavy enough, it's also a great arm conditioner. This is a very close second in terms of my favorites. Same exact drills, same exact footwork, but this time we are including the cast that goes over with a 15-pound club bell. So again, a great way to test posture, a great way to test arm conditioning, while at the same time implementing the dynamics of footwork so that the foot-ankle complex and the hip complex has a better way of communicating with each other, because there is stepping forward with a dynamically moving weight. So when I step forward or step backwards, I find myself having to move the kettlebell behind me. Another version of this, and this one is for those of you who want that challenge, if you want to go ahead and do that cast, pick up one foot to go ahead and do it. It's very challenging. And again, it tests your posture, test your stability, and also a test of your arm conditioning. And this is something I like to do, strangely enough, as a finisher, because by the time I'm done, I want to go ahead and give myself an extra challenge, and that is a great extra challenge for me. My father inspired this exercise. This is the dalawahan diagonal punch cut. So what this really does, it tests rotational force generation, because now you're using two hands to really drive that stick across. So you do a switch off over here, and this time you point the stick forward. So when you point the stick forward, it really fires the oblique sling, really starts to turn your body forward. So it's not only a great technique developer, but really great for your core. Once you're done with your attribute and developmental exercises, pick up one of your sticks and start to move, start to play. You want to see if your motor control capabilities have been affected in any way by muscular fatigue, by any sort of deficiency in neuromuscular coordination because of fatigue. And what you'll find is that your awareness is going to be higher. And if there's any fatigue, you will be able to overcome it with your sense of technique. And it's a great way to test just how well you know your movements. So it's a good time to use techniques like your kabilaan, your dalawahan, the ones that require a lot of awareness and concentration for you to be able to pull off. And that's how I would recommend that you finish your program for that day. And it's a good time to change your postures as well, to start to exercise and explore globally what your body is really capable of while you're moving a stick.
Thank you very much for joining me, and I really hope that you enjoyed the episode that we provided today. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. And if you want me to reach out to you to discuss in further detail what some of these items are, please leave your email for me to reach out to you. And again, if you like this content, if you, your continued support of the channel would be greatly appreciated. So please press like and subscribe to the channel. And once again, this is Rolando Garcia III, thanking you for your support of the Rolando Estacado channel. Thank you very much. Salamat po.